Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Shit Loretta Knows. Let me just angle this camera a little bit differently. There we go. I haven't been live for a while, so I'm so glad to be back in the saddle. I think my life is relatively normalized in terms of my schedule for the next couple of weeks. So I will be live every Tuesday at 12 in Vitality Matters. So today I want to talk about the healer is you. And the reason why I want to do that is because very often we move into personal development or self-help programs or therapy because we're looking for someone outside of us to teach us something or to give us something that's going to make us better. And specifically when it comes to our health. So our Western medicine paradigm is that, we have signs and symptoms. And we generally go to a medical professional. So we go to a doctor and we tell them what our signs and symptoms are. And they run some tests maybe, and then they make a diagnosis, and then they give us a treatment. And they say, well, take this medication or, do X and Y, and then you will be better. And effectively, we're giving our power away to them. Now, we don't always know how to interpret our own signs and symptoms. I'm not suggesting we shouldn't go to the doctor. I'm just saying that the way in which the system is geared is that the doctor becomes the powerful one. The doctor becomes the one that tells you this is the medicine to take. And then your responsibility is to take that medicine. And hopefully what will happen then is you get better. But sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes we go to the doctor and they can't tell us what's wrong. Sometimes they run all the tests and the tests are all negative. And there is nothing wrong, but we don't feel great. Sometimes they run the tests, they give us a diagnosis, but the medication doesn't help. Sometimes there is no medication. So what do we actually do? How do we become the healers? Well, first of all, I want to start off by telling you, you are the healer. There's no homeopath, there's no naturopath, there's no traditional healer, there's no energy medicine healer. That is the healer. You are the healer. Those people, those professionals, they can help you facilitate your healing, but you are the healer. You have it all within you. I made a reel this morning that I posted on here, and I said, we all have different talents, we all have different abilities, and we look different, and, we have different skills. But the truth is, we all have some things in common. And one is that we are self-healing. Our bodies, and by body, I mean your body, your mind, your spirit, your emotions, are self-healing. We're always tending to health. Problem is that tendency that moves towards health encounters obstacles, and the obstacles move us in the opposite way. And it's usually at that interface between the obstacles and the tendency that we get the signs and symptoms. And there's a great gift in those signs and symptoms that you can really harness when you tap into your inner healer. So we all have this innate healing ability. And the second thing is we all have a part of ourselves. Now, some of us call this our hearts. Some call this our higher selves. Some may call this our spirit. Some may think of it as our soul. One of my teachers calls it your super conscious. It's like above consciousness. But there's a part of you that is connected through all time and space and is essentially all-knowing. Think of it as your wise inner guru, priest, goddess, queen, king, whatever metaphor you want to use. We all have that, and we can all access that part of ourselves through our intuition. Now, if you're like me and you're addicted to the rational mind being the thing, which most of us actually are, then you might go, well, I don't have intuition, or I have intuition, but my intuition is not that good. Okay, well, here's the thing. Everyone's intuition is good. Everyone's intuition is always on. We just haven't learned the language of tuning into our intuition. So I want to tell you a little story. Those of you who know me well know that I'm a perennial learner, right? And that I have a high value on learning. So part of the reason why I have a high value on learning is because I like control. I have an underlying limiting belief, dog is kicking over my tripod, Luga, that says that I need to control myself, others in the world in order to be safe. When things are out of control, I am unsafe. And one of the ways that I have controlled myself and my environment is I have learned about the mind-body connection. I've learned about disease. I've learned how to interpret signs and symptoms. I've learned about energy medicine. I've learned about human behavior because I didn't know this then, but because unconsciously, the more I knew, the more control I thought I had. So one day, a friend of mine and I was a great Carolyn Myss fan. So if you don't know who Carolyn Myss is a medical intuitive who can read your energy and basically intuit what's going on with you and why it is that way. And she wrote a book called The Anatomy of the Spirit, and she married the chakra system, the Kabbalah and the sacraments in the Christian orientation. And this book, Anatomy of the Spirit, was amazing because for the first time ever, it put the chakras in a kind of context that I could really understand. It was really it like appealed to my rational mind. And then she wrote another book about why people get sick and why they don't heal. Something like that. I'm mangling the cover. But Carolyn Myss came to South Africa at about the time where I was still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. In fact, it was before the birth of my child, so I was in my 20s. And she came to South Africa and she did a lecture or a workshop in Johannesburg. And I took a friend of mine with. And off we went and she spoke about the chakras and, how do you recognize when which chakra governs what? And, what emotions does it govern? And energetically, what does it govern? And, how do you see that there's an imbalance in it? And I remember the two of us going home and going, oh, fuck. I need all 7 of my chakras balanced. And my friend said, yes, she also needs all 7 of her chakras balanced. And her husband, who's quite a lot older than us, was at home. And we were telling him about this. We were like, basically, we're screwed. Like, we've got all 7 chakras imbalanced. And he said, well, couldn't have been too much of a workshop then if all she did was make you feel worse about yourself. And I was really pissed off at him. I was like, so narrow-minded, didn't even understand what was going on. Who's he to, debunk a hero of mine? But now, with the hindsight of many years, I realized he was actually quite right because we went to a workshop. I went to a workshop, certainly, to get some answers. And what I discovered, no offense to her, it wasn't because of her, it was because of me and my programming, was that I just had more places and more things to fix. And so this is the thing. Every time I have learned a new skill, like a mind body or an energy medicine or a nutritional skill, it's always been in a quest to actually fix myself and everyone else, okay? Because if I fix everyone else, then I feel like I've got more control. Long story about where that comes from. I think I may have told you that story before, but that's not for today. So every time I would learn something new, what will happen is my knowledge would increase. And so my rational mind would get more full and I would feel more intelligent. And for a short period of time, I'd feel like I was more in control. And I got the dopamine hit of having learned something new or acquired a new skill. But then when I applied it, so of course I'm diligent, right? I'm like the Hermione Granger of personal development. So I would do all the homework and I would then hire the coach and I would do the next course and I would read the books. And yes, it would improve things for a while, but then ultimately I found something else about me that needed fixing. And so then I needed the next course and then I needed the next one and the next one and so on and so forth. And I found it was exactly the same with my patients. I would find what I thought was the right remedy for them, or I would discover what I thought was really wrong with them. I would treat them. They would get better. They'd stay better for a while, sometimes for a long time. And then maybe they'd come back and they'd have the same thing after a long time, sometimes of a shorter time. And they couldn't be consistently well, right? And so I loved treating little children because they were the best, because they very often sort of grew into their immune systems and then they got better and better. So, that child that had the chronic tonsillitis eventually outgrew the chronic tonsillitis and then became more robust. And that was amazing. But I had less of that with adults. And so, what I realize now in retrospect is that the benefits of all of that was there's a lot of shit Loretta knows about the mind, body, and healing and shit like that, okay? I concede that. But the drawback is that each one of those things, because I was always looking for that thing that was going to not only fix me, but help me fix others. And in fixing others, then I would fix me. That's part of what kept me stuck in that loop of continuous learning and education. Now, it didn't all have drawbacks, right? So that's what I'm saying. So the benefits of that is that there's a lot of shit that I know about this stuff. The drawback is that it exhausted me because I basically could never fix my own fucked upness. And ultimately, I could never fix everyone else's either. So enter the creative orientation. A couple years ago, I don't know, I can't remember how long now, maybe 5 years ago, I met up with a coach that I had done something else with a different coach. And I started working with her and I discovered something called the creative orientation, how it is that we truly create our reality. And, it's not via the law of attraction necessarily. That's also a talk for another day. But basically, I realized there's nothing to fix. I'm not broken. And honestly, it felt like someone had taken a massive weight off my shoulders. Nothing to fix. How the fuck can there be nothing to fix, guys? I spent my whole life trying to not only fix me, but help fix other people. But I realized that when we see people as broken, when I see myself as broken, I see myself as powerless. I might buy into the theory that I am this powerful being that can create whatever I want and that I have a self-healing mechanism, which is my body. But the truth is, when I see myself as needing fixing, my power is in the problem, the thing that needs fixing. And when I see others as being broken and needing fixing, the power is not with them. I don't see them as being powerful. I see them as being powerless. And that was one of the things that was missing in my healing toolbox, shall we say. So the creative orientation basically works on a couple of premises. Now, a premise, hang on, I've got to look it up in my notes, right? Because I can never remember the definition. So I had to go and look it up in the Cambridge Dictionary. And it says, a premise is an idea or theory on which action or statement is based. Okay, so it's an idea or a theory on which an action is based. So that means it's not taken as being a truth. It's taken as being a potential truth. And so what the creative orientation invites us to do is to say, there are a few premises. Why don't you take action in alignment with those premises and then be your own testimony? See if this is true for you. And so this is what I did. I thought, okay, well, I can give this a go. What I loved about it was it's not prescriptive. There isn't only one way. In fact, the best thing about it is there's no wrong way. And there also is no right way. So if you're a control freak, it's like, eek, there's no right way. Which way is it going to be? The truth is, there's only your way. And this is what makes working in the creative orientation truly holistic and individualized. So, in homeopathic medicine, homeopathy is one of the only truly, in my opinion, holistic and individualized treatment modalities out there, because you do not give the same remedy. You don't treat a condition, you treat a person. And so there might be 5 people and they may all have the same pneumonia that's caused by the same virus, but their symptoms will present slightly differently. Some of them will be thirsty. Some of them will not be thirsty. Some of them will have chills when they have their fever. Some of them will not have chills when they have fever. Some will want to be covered. Some will want to be uncovered. Those things are not medically important, but homeopathically they're really vital, and they separate one remedy from another very often. And so you can have 5 people with pneumonia and you may give 2 or 3 of them maybe the same remedy because they have similar symptoms, but you will never give all 5 of them the same remedy because it's a truly individualized treatment. And with a creative orientation, here's the freedom. There is no right way. There is no wrong way. You can't fuck it up, basically. You also can't get a gold star. There's only your way. And once you discover your way, that's when you step into your true power. That's when you discover that the healer is you. That's when you learn how to access that healer. And that's when healing becomes your way. It becomes your journey. It becomes your path. It becomes connected directly to your unique purpose. And this is something that I had not learned in any other personal development modality. I had heard this in Eastern philosophy and spirituality, but I didn't know how to do it. Not without like 30 years of meditation. So, there is nothing that you must, should, ought, or need to do. There's nothing to do, but there is action to take. And so what happens is you learn how to take action that's in alignment with that part of you that is your higher self. So you have, let's start off with one of the main premises of the creative orientation is that your focus, not your attitude, not your emotion, not how happy you are, not how much money you make, not what color you are, not what gender you identify with. Your focus creates your reality. So wherever you have your focus, if you've got your focus on your end result, you are inevitably, and you take action in the direction of that, you will inevitably create whatever it is that you want to create, your end result. If you've got your focus on what you have to do to get the result that you want, then your focus is what you need to do. And what you need to do is very often associated with what you need to fix, which means that you're going to keep on focusing on what you need to do. And what happens then is that's when your doubts, your fears, your assumptions, your expectations, and your stories start rearing their ugly head, and they all create resistance. They all tell you why you can't have what you want. And they stop you from taking action in the direction of what you would love. So there are 3 streams of consciousness that we all operate from. We have our conscious thinking mind. They've got different terms for this, right? Depending on who you read. But basically, your conscious mind is that part of you that's listening to this live. It's the part of my mind that's busy telling you what I'm telling you. It's also the part of you that you make your rational decisions out of. It's your rational mind, okay? It's your mind that tells you what's real. But one thing I want to tell you is your mind is an accumulation of every thought you've ever thought. And every thought you've ever thought is based on information that you took in through your senses and you filtered through your unique filter of reality. And in actual fact, you thought a thought based on some sort of experience or based on what someone else told you. And so your thoughts are actually not particularly original. And what's happening in your mind is an accumulation of your past. I'm going to say that again. What's happening in your mind is an accumulation of your past. So your thoughts are your past accumulations and my thoughts are my past accumulations. And this is your conscious mind. This is also where you make decisions from, right? This is where you decide what you're going to wear today from, right? It's your mind, your thinking mind. Then you have your unconscious. Now your unconscious is exactly what it says it is. It's unconscious. You don't have conscious access to it. And Carl Jung, I'm going to mangle this quote, had a quote that said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will essentially run your life. Those were not his words, but that's what I think he meant, okay? I'm terrible with quotes, and I didn't write that one down. So your unconscious, think of it like an iceberg. You know that the tip of the iceberg is the small part, and the real part of the iceberg, the larger part, is the part that's under the water. That's why the Titanic sank. So your conscious mind is the part that you can see, the part above the water, and your unconscious mind is what's going on underneath the water. And then you have a third stream of consciousness, which is either called your superconscious, or it is by some people called your heart, or it's called your spirit, or it's called your higher self, or some people even call it your soul. But it's that part of you that's above and beyond your rational thinking mind. It's also above and beyond your unconscious. It's not better than, it's just on a different frequency. So think of it as different frequencies. Your unconscious is at a particular frequency that you can't access. So there's certain frequencies that the human ear can't hear. Your unconscious mind is those frequencies. Your conscious mind are those frequencies that the human ear can hear. And your superconscious mind are higher frequencies that your human ear also can't hear. But here's the thing. You can access your superconscious mind or your spirit or your higher mind, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it your spirit. You can access that through your intuition. You can't access it through your thinking mind. So again, you can access it through your super hearing, think of it, right? Which is not your physical hearing. So think of your conscious mind, if you're using the hearing metaphor. Unconscious is the low frequencies we can't hear. Conscious are the frequencies we can hear. Superconscious are the high, the elevated frequencies. They're like music of the spheres, the music of the angels that we can't hear with our human ear, but that we can hear with the ear of our intuition. And so these 3 streams of consciousness essentially have our focus. And 99% of our focus is on our unconscious. And our unconscious mind, that is where your limiting beliefs, your fears, and your expectations, your limitations, that's where they are. They're hidden. Primarily your limiting beliefs. And these are the beliefs that develop in your very, very early childhood. So I'm listening to a very, very fascinating book at the moment called The Myth of Normal by Dr. Gabor Mate. Some of you may know him for his work with addiction. He's a physician that is really moved into the sort of, shall we call it the alternative, looking at the medical model kind of sphere. And so I'm about halfway through this book, and he explains that when babies are tiny, they only feel. They don't have the ability to think rationally. Your conscious mind isn't fully developed because part of the neocortex is still developing in a baby. And so everything is processed on a sort of somatic in the body and a feeling kind of way. And it's at that age, between the age of 0 and 3, when our basic needs on some level are not met. We experience that as trauma. Now, sometimes it can be really overt trauma, and sometimes it literally can just be a mother that's over anxious or stressed or not attached or has postnatal depression. No judgment on any of this, okay? Or a stressful family situation or, financial issues or an absent father. Any one of those things can create a perceived need that isn't met in that baby. And babies are largely narcissistic. You know what babies are like, right? When they want something, they want something. You know, life usually revolves around an infant and around a toddler, even more so. And so they internalize everything, and everything becomes about them because they have no external reference. They have no reference to say, oh, well, you know, my mother's being a bitch today. She's very impatient with me today because she and my father had a fight. No, she's very impatient today because there must be something wrong with me. And that's how we develop our limiting beliefs. And so this part is where our focus almost always is. And this is why we keep on creating the repetitive patterns in our lives. So we can either keep on trying to fix those unmet needs and the traumatized parts of ourselves, or we can focus on what we love to create. The problem is that those unmet needs, the traumatized parts of ourselves, the limiting beliefs, those parts, some of that stuff is conscious, but a lot of it is actually unconscious. We're not even aware of what the program is that's running us. And until you make that conscious, until you become aware of what that program is, you cannot change things. You are going to actually be compulsively run by that. And that's where we get trapped into creating the same cycles over and over and over. So back to my original story. So it didn't matter how many programs I went to. Doesn't matter how many new tools and techniques I learned. Doesn't matter how many new amazing nutritional supplements I took. Doesn't matter how many amazing different diets I went on. Essentially, I always seem to be repeating the same pattern. Now, this is not a pity party because I actually think I've had an amazing life. But I've worked hard at having an amazing life. But I've also been run by my programming, without a doubt. And the problem is that my programming has kept me trapped. So when I discovered the creative orientation for the first time, I got a glimpse that actually life may not be all about suffering, and that in actual fact, freedom could be something that I could have. Up until that point, I felt like I was trapped in my life, largely trapped in my conscious mind. So what happens when we get sick is that our bodies, the signs and symptoms that we have. So when I say sick, disease is dis-ease. I would like to think that the opposite of dis-ease is like with ease, you know? So dis-ease is like it's uncomfortable, but with ease is very comfortable. And many of us are, when you say to people, you know, what would you love? And they say, oh, I'd love more balance, or I'd love more peace. Personally, I don't think you can have balance without imbalance. I don't think that you can have war without peace. And I know you can't have ease without dis-ease, right? But in actual fact, I think that we can actually shoot for ease and dis-ease in a very balanced kind of way. And so what happens is when your programming is running you compulsively, you essentially are trapped. So think about this. Think about that. Think about like you're a wild animal that's been trapped in a very small cage. And so you fling yourself against the bars constantly. You don't eat. You don't drink. You're smashing yourself against the side of the cage because you want to get out. Ultimately, you harm yourself, right? So ultimately, you're going to damage something. You're going to break a wing if you're a bird. You're going to hurt something. You're going to burn yourself out. You're going to dehydrate. You're going to starve. And ultimately, the end of all of that, you might actually, if you don't get out of the trap, you might actually die. And so that's what happens when we are living compulsively. And so signs and symptoms are an attempt of our being that's always tending to optimal health and high vitality, to wake us up to the truth, of this program, which is a lie, that's running our entire lives. And so if you want true healing to happen, my opinion is you need to wake up to the program that's running you. And once you've woken up to the program that's running you, you need to decide what is it that you'd love instead. And when you've connected to what that is that you would love, when you have a vision for your health and your life, then you can ask yourself intuitively, what action can I take that's going to get me closer to creating what I'd love and not focusing on fixing any longer? Now, I want to tell you that when you start doing this, the need to fix doesn't go away. The limiting belief doesn't go away. And it's not a constant war, but you do have to constantly be alert to the fact that your ego and your rational mind is always going to try and keep you safe. which is it doesn't want you to leave the cage. It doesn't want you to be free. It's like, okay, well, this is the cage. It's shit. I'm not loving it, but it's the cage I've got, and it's what I'm comfortable with. It's that better the devil you know than the devil you don't. And this is why transformation is so hard for us, because in actual fact, even if the cage was open, we're terrified to leave the cage. And so while you are creating what you'd love and stepping out of the cage, it can be really terrifying. But here's the thing. When you are being led by your spirit and your higher self, you can't do it wrong. There is no wrong way. There's just your way. So what I would like to do today is I'd like to give you an experience of what it's like to see what the truth is for you in terms of your ego, and maybe make some of that unconscious stuff conscious, and then to connect to your higher self vision and see what that looks like. Okay, now this is not going to be perfect. Doesn't matter if it doesn't work for you. I mean, this is alive, right? But it's just so that you can have a taste. So what I would like you to do right now is I'd just like you to think of something that stresses you in your life, right? Some area of your life where you want something to be a certain way and it's not that way. Like, maybe you want more money, or maybe you want your spouse to be more attentive, or maybe you need more freedom, whatever it is for you right now. So just think of something like that. Think of a particular thing that is stressing you right now. And if you've got a pen and paper handy, just write down, when you think about that thing, when that comes into your mind, what are your thoughts? What thoughts do you have about it? So, maybe my thoughts are on this live is like, oh my God, what if I go off script? What if I forget what I want to say? What if they hate what I'm saying? What if everyone starts dropping off? What if no one's interested? What if this intuitive exercise doesn't work for anyone? What if this backfires? Those are my thoughts. So, once you've done your thoughts, what are your feelings? When you think those thoughts, how does it make you feel? Maybe it makes you feel anxious. Maybe it makes you feel overwhelmed. How does it make you feel? Oh, this bloody dog keeps on kicking my tripod, the fucker. So, how does it make you feel? And once you've written down those feelings, then ask yourself, what is the fear? What are you really frightened of? Like, if you don't get the money, what are you scared of? If my life does go pear-shaped, what am I frightened of? What is the fear? Because the fear is usually around safety, it's around security, it's around rejection. It's usually around something like losing validation, not being good enough. Like, what is the fear? What am I really frightened of? What would happen? What am I frightened is going to happen if this stressful situation in my life doesn't get resolved? And then when you've isolated the fear, ask yourself, normally when this happens and I feel like this, what do I tend to do? How do I soothe this? Some of us eat more. Some of us work harder. Some of us exercise harder. What do I do to make myself feel better in the short term? How do I try and fix the discomfort that I'm having because of this fear? Now, when you've got all of that down, that's your reality. That's your reality around this particular thing, right? You could even ask yourself, what do I believe to be true about myself? What do I believe to be true about myself? And that's why I'm so worried about this. So let's say that I'm not making enough money. What do I believe to be true about myself? That, I don't deserve to make the money, that I'm not good enough maybe, that I don't have enough skill to make the money. Mostly that I don't deserve to make the money would be an obvious one for me, okay? And then what would you believe about other people? So other people who make money easily, what is it like? They're lucky. Other people are more connected than I am. Other people are more fortunate than I am. What do you think about others? What do you believe about other people? And if what you believe about yourself and what you believe about other people is true, what do you believe in the world, about the world? What kind of world do you live in? So if I don't deserve to make the money, if everyone else is lucky and they can make the money, what's the world like? Well, the world's unfair, dude. It's unfair. And again, what am I terrified of? And what do I do to try and fix this? So in my case, it would be like work harder, sell a new course, start something new, go on a new course, get a new coach, right? Learn a new skill. That is my strategy to try and manage my discomfort. So that is an example of how you discover what's real for you about any situation in your life. And that's how you take some of that stuff that's sitting in your unconscious that you haven't really been paying attention to, and you make it conscious. And so now you know what that is. Okay. So now that you know what that is, I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose. And then just sigh it all out. And just feel yourself sinking into your body. And then take another deep breath in through your nose. Inhale fully. And when you're ready, just sigh it all out. And then set an intention to be of the highest service to yourself today, to serve yourself at the highest level. Because the minute you do that, and you can just do that by, I intend to serve myself at the highest level, or I choose to serve myself at the highest level right now, from my heart. What happens is you drop out of your brain and you drop into your heart, into your body. And when you do that, your thoughts start quietening, your emotions start settling. And you come to a place of poise. Now, I want you to imagine that there's a beautiful golden elevator, a lift in front of you, and it's surrounded by a fine golden mist. As you step closer to the elevator, that fine golden mist washes over you, and it washes all these things, all these thoughts, these feelings, these fears, these beliefs that you have. It just washes them away, and they just drain away into the earth, and they just get transmuted to light. And the doors open, and you step inside, and it's the most beautiful, warm, welcoming space. It's the most amazing elevator you've ever been in. It doesn't even look like an elevator anymore. And as the doors close, you feel yourself being separated from all of those thoughts and those feelings and those stories that you've just told yourself, the beliefs about your current situation. And as you look down at the little display on your side, you see higher self perspective of current situation on a little button. And you push the button and the elevator starts going up. And as it starts rising, imagine it's sort of glass, right? You can see all your fears, your assumptions, your thoughts, your feelings. They're being left far behind, and you're rising higher and higher and higher above them. And the elevator's going quicker and quicker and quicker. And as it moves faster and faster, you realize it's glowing more and more brightly. The interior becomes warm and it's glowing. It's so beautiful and it's so warm and it's so comforting. And the elevator continues to rise, and you rise way up above your reality. And as it goes faster and faster, you realize that you've become so light that you feel like you're floating. And as it continues to speed up, it goes so fast that you think you realize that you realize that you feel like you're stationary. It's going so quick. And you're so far removed from your reality. And you feel open and curious to see what your higher self perspective is of your current situation that you identified earlier. And the elevator comes to a stop, the doors open, and you step into a beautiful, warm, welcoming space. And this space is filled with the most beautiful divine light. And this light represents your higher self, that part of you that exists throughout space and time. And you ask your higher self to show you a vision of this situation resolved. And you may see a picture, you may see a scene, you may just get some words of wisdom, you may actually just get a feeling of what it would be like if your current stressful situation was resolved. Because your higher self has limitless possibilities to do this. And so just feel into what that would feel like. What would it feel like if you've got a physical condition that was resolved? What would it feel like if you had optimal health? What would it feel like if you had high vitality? What would you be able to do? And just feel into that. Feel into those feelings. Breathe those feelings into your being. Move those feelings to the top of your head, down to the tips of your fingers and down to the tips of your toes, until your whole body is completely infused with that. And from this place of powerful healing, ask yourself, what is my next obvious action? And the first thing that pops into your head, that's the thing that your higher self, through your intuition, needs you to do. That's the aligned action that you can take that's going to get you closer to creating this end result, this vision that you've just connected with. And once you have that obvious action, and listen, it could be do nothing. It could literally be do nothing. Doing nothing is also an action. You turn around again and you see the elevator doors, you push the button, the elevator opens, you get in, You look at the display down at the bottom and it says reality. You push the button and you feel the elevator dropping you back into your current reality. And taking a deep breath in through your nose once more to just ground yourself in your body and breathing out fully through your mouth. You feel yourself sitting or standing wherever you are. You feel the air around you. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes and come back into the present moment. Now this, my friends, is a structure. This is a structure for creation. It's really not more complicated than this. There is resistance. Okay, so when you come out of this, maybe when you were in there, it felt amazing, and now you're like, oh, I don't know if that was just real. Maybe there was just a visualization. Maybe Loretta hypnotized us. Oh my God. Whatever. That's your rational mind. It's always going to be on, and it's always going to tell you why it's not safe to take the action that your higher self, through your intuition, has given you. And that's resistance. So that's actually the only part that requires work. The work is to remove the resistance as much as we can, to become aware of the resistance, to actually welcome it and accept it so that we can transmute it, so that we can shift our focus from what we have, or our thoughts, our fears, our beliefs, our limitations, to what we would love. And this, my friends, is where true healing lies. So if you are interested or ready, or if your intuition has said, it's time for you to get help, I would love to be the person that accompanies you on your healing journey. I would love to be the person that helps you to connect to the healer that is you, because you are the healer, so that you can become your authority. And yes, you may need to ask someone what pills to take and what potions to take and maybe what food might be the best for you to eat. But you know what? You are the healer. That's why my program is called The Healer Is You. And so at the moment, I'm only teaching this program one-to-one. And it's 16 weeks, 3 weeks of coaching and 1 week off, so that you have time to integrate. Oh, fucking dog has finally left. But I am putting together, in fact, I've already put together the outline of it, a group program for this. Because there is a way that we can actually connect to this part of ourselves every single day, so that we can create, think of it as a business plan for health. But your business plan, which is unique to you, which is not the way I say you need to do it, but it's the way you want to do it. And so you step into your power and can become a powerful creator of your optimal health. And once you know how to do it for health, you can do it for wealth, you can do it for relationships, you can do it for whatever you want. And here's the thing, when you are focusing and living from your spirit relative to your health, it starts touching every other aspect of your life. So, if you're ready to take that step, I would love to be the person to guide you. If you want to know more, please reach out to me. You can send me a personal message, or you can just drop a comment and say ready, or I'm in, or please give me more info, whatever you'd like to put in the comments. And I will be happy to reach out to you and discuss it with you further. So I would love to know how you experienced that. I would love to know what your experience was. Did you access your higher self? Did you get an intuitive hit? Did you think it was a lot of shit? Did you think it was lovely? Did you maybe feel relaxed afterwards? I don't know, whatever it is, right? Positive or negative. I would love to have your feedback. It's quite difficult on a Facebook Live because you can't see anyone, obviously, and there's no chatting going on, right? So let me know what you thought of this. Next week, I am going to be talking more about this, actually, and more about the questions that we ask, like, will this work for me? How will I know that it's working? Oh my God, how can I trust that what I'm doing is right? Like, what if it doesn't work? So remember, the creative orientation is based on premises. The premise is like a theory, and you take the action, and then you see whether that theory works for you. Now, you might say, okay, well, I'm not paying you money on a premise. I want to tell you, I have helped tens, not hundreds, tens of people at this point, work in the creative orientation and create amazing things for themselves, especially relative to their health. So, without any more ado, I'm going to stop the advertorial now, and I'm going to stop the live. And I thank you for being on your live with me. Please type live if you've been watching live. Please type replay if you're watching the replay. Please let me know what you thought of this. And if you're embarrassed to put it in the comments because you want to say, Loretta, I think you're a doos, then send me a message, okay? You can send me a message on WhatsApp. You can send me a direct message on Messenger. And I am always happy to get the feedback. No, not always if you say mean things, but you know what? I can cope with it if you say mean things. So I hope you guys have an amazing Tuesday. I know that I banged on a bit longer than usual. I hope that you enjoyed the experience. And I will be back next week for more Shit Loretta Knows.